actually passed the mental health strategy, which I'm very excited about, unanimously. I think that will make a big difference to people in the community living lives of dignity and hope. We did some work on business support through COVID, as well as, you may not have noticed, also passed a change to our public art policy that we'll be able to talk about a little bit later this week. All right, but with that, I'm very happy to take questions.
Mayor, can I ask you first about the property tax finalization?
Yes. Oh yeah, we did that too.
Yeah. I don't recall this side of, well, at least 2008, that both numbers went down. How significant is this?
It's a big deal. You know, we're actually passing a reduction in the average rate of property tax for everyone. Last year we did a 10% reduction for businesses, but an increase for residences to make up for it. And this year, thanks to the hard work of our city administration on really controlling costs through COVID, we were able to pass a reduction in everyone's property taxes.
And you're aware that there will be people in Calgary who will say the only reason that's happening is because there's an election this fall. How would you respond to that?
Nah. The reason it's happening is because a lot of the work that we've been working on very hard through the economic downturn is now coming to fruition, as well as the fact that we've been going through COVID and people really need a break at this time.
You were not in support of the waiving of the business fees for a second year. Can you just explain why?
Well, you know, I'm very happy that council was able to set aside some money to help businesses who are struggling in this time. I just have always said I prefer to target that money towards people who really need the help. And what we ended up doing was giving every superstore and Walmart $200, as well as $200 to your neighborhood hair salon. And I just would have liked to have gotten more money to the neighborhood hair salon and a little less to the big box stores. But I understand the council was interested in moving quickly rather than spending a lot of time figuring out how to help that hair salon.
Isn't that defeat entirely the defeat purpose? Not the official motion, but the considering this is a negative.
I feel like it does a little, but Councillor Sutherland actually explained that very nicely, where he said, had we not passed the amendment at the meeting last time, then you would have had a few big box stores getting $100,000, $150,000 tax break, and this at least takes some of that money and gives it to that neighborhood hair salon, even though it's just a little.
In terms of public art,
Sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
But how does it give more to smaller businesses?
Well, it gives something to the smaller businesses. Under Councillor Farkas's original motion, the smaller businesses whose taxes had not gone up would not get anything. And so this at least gives them a little bit.
yes, the public art, the Calgary Art Development is taking over operations. That was sent out.
You know this?
Yes.
Oh, I can talk about it then.
This is out.
It was
Oh,
sent
okay.
out to all of us. So that is one of the city's specific partners. So how far out of the city is this being taken? It is technically a third-party operator, but do you think people will understand that it is external now?
Yeah, you know, there was a very big process. We looked at a number of different models for operating. Ultimately, Calgary Arts Development was the chosen proponent. And to me, that makes a ton of sense because Calgary Arts Development already acts as the city's granting arm for visual and performing arts, but not for public art. And they're very good at granting. They know how to do that, probably better than the city does. So I'm actually quite pleased that they've ended up with it because it still shows that there's public support for this program. It's not, you know, Walmart doing our public art, but at the same time puts it into an organization that's very good at the idea of evaluating and granting.
So the freeze is now lifted on public art funding. That seems to be what
That's
this
right, the
means.
freeze
So-
has now been lifted.
So as mayor, you've been a very big supporter of public art. How can I get your reaction to that freeze now being lifted again?
Yeah, I'm really happy about it. I have to tell you that the public art folks in the time of that freeze have been doing really wonderful things on very small scales. And I actually love that. I think that public art should be small things that just appear in your community instead of these massive things that sometimes are not legible as art. And so I think they've done a terrific job, and I think that Calgary Arts Development will continue to do good work with just making sure that public art meets its need, which is to delight people in the community, to add a little bit of art and thoughtfulness to your daily community.
go over how sort of funding for our works. I believe
Ruh-roh.
is it an $800,000 grant to the external operator? I think.
Now you see, I didn't actually know that that release had gone out today, so I'm not really briefed on that. And those are probably questions best for Ms. Thompson.
So an event is coming later this week.
Don't know, because the release is out now, so maybe not. But I'm sure Ms. Thompson would be very happy to answer your questions.
Mr. Mayor, can we get your reaction to CP Rail's acquisition? Some good news for Calgary.
Yeah, I had the chance to speak with CP Rail senior management on Sunday, and I was assured that there will be no job losses in Calgary, that the historic CP headquarters at Ogden Yards will become the global headquarters for the new company, and that they did this acquisition because they see growth. And I hope that there'll be a lot of growth at Ogden Yards. I'll point out that Ogden Yards is the site of a future Green Line station, so I hope that there'll be even more employment happening at that location. But ultimately, this is the oldest business headquartered in Calgary. It's a great Calgary firm, and I'm really thrilled to be part of the growth story of this firm here in Calgary.
I want to go back to the events of the weekend. Specifically, I wanted to ask about the police officers that were shown at this pro-COVID / white supremacist rally wearing thin blue line patches, and I was wondering how that jives with the city's broader plans to tackle systemic racism as well as the police.
I was very pleased to see the report from, or the comment from the Calgary Police Service reaffirming the police service's commitment to anti-racism work. That's really important. Now, they claim that the thin blue line means different things to different people. I don't know enough about it to be able to make that judgment, but I do know that the police service leadership and the police service have committed to anti-racism, and I would expect that would be true of every single serving member of the police.
A couple rough incidents over the weekend. I guess you spoke about it a bit. Because I was wondering if you could speak to it a bit more, just about your thoughts on what happened over the weekend. Perhaps any actions that can be taken at the local level from your government.
This really starts with human beings talking to human beings. We've let this kind of unacceptable behavior, this racism and this hatred go on for far too long. And while we have a lot of work to do to attack the issue of systemic and institutional racism, certainly we should be able to make sure that people can feel safe walking down the street or taking the C train without being harassed about their race or their religion. So this is a horrifying story. And I hope that I'll get the chance to speak with the survivors here. But I want them to know, as well as all racialized people in Calgary and people of minority faiths in Calgary, that you live in a community of love. You live in a community where you belong. And that good people in this community want you to be unbelievably happy and successful in this community. And that's something we got to continue to work on. And while we have haters, small numbers of haters marching in the streets, they advertised this thing forever. They advertised it over the whole province. Convoys of people came in, and they got a couple hundred people. This is a tiny minority of the real Calgarians. And I really call upon all Calgarians today to reach out to your friends and family members who may feel a little bit nervous in the city and tell them that they belong here and that they will do well here.
What's your response to officers opening up Princess Island Park for a protest?
Well, I know that there was a very detailed operational plan, but I will highlight that while you don't need a permit to protest out here at City Hall, you do need one on Princess Island. And we are in the spring where seeding happens, and we're trying to get that park ready for the summer festival season. This was an unauthorized, unpermitted protest, and I would expect that such things are enforced.
Is there anything more that the city can do? Councillor Bondac brought up advocating with CPS for to change hate laws or stronger statement on that. Is there anything else the city can do at this point?
Well, there is work that has to happen at the policy level. But I think primarily the work we have to do is at the one-on-one enforcement level. So for example, I am awaiting more information on what happened on the incident on Saturday with the person who was using a wheelchair, where I was told neither party wanted to progress this. And I thought to myself, Since when do individuals press charges? If you commit an act of assault, then you should be charged for that. So I await learning a little bit more about making sure that we're applying the law fairly to everyone. You know, I think only on U.S. Courtroom shows do you want to press charges. You know, the system actually is, if you've committed a crime, the person can't, the survivor of the crime can't say, nah, it's okay. And so that's what I really want to learn more about.
On that same train of thought, now, again, I keep forgetting the questions are on my phone, so now I gotta try and remember. One of my reporters is just looking on social media. There is a start where some people on social media and some Calgarian socialites are saying, hey, you know what, I'm done with Calgary. There's been a lot of racism stuff, and that's actually the excuse now that they have, that they're now leaving the city. When you start to hear that now as an excuse to leave Calgary, how does that make you feel?
Look, that's deeply troubling, because the only reason this place succeeds, the only reason this place works and has worked for 150 years is precisely because we've been welcoming to everyone. And the Alberta government actually estimates that all of our growth is going to come from international immigration over the next several years. And so if we suddenly become a place where people don't want to live, where people don't want to invest, that means our future is in deep jeopardy. And these are things that we've got to fix, and we've got to fix them now.
What we do, I hope you don't mind if I change subjects here today. Would be the date that phase 3 reopening could happen, if that's a possibility to happen. Obviously, we had quite a large case count over the weekend. I guess your thoughts as mayor of what you'd like to see happen, whether we should or should not.
I know it's really frustrating for people to hear me say just have a little more patience, but that was certainly my message to the province, and I've had the chance to speak with the premier about this. The increase in variants and the uptick in hospitalizations is very concerning. Phase 3 basically has a couple of big things in it. One is easing restrictions on indoor gatherings, which I think is a bad idea right now. And the second is opening up things like movie theaters and auditoriums. That might be able to be done safely, but I really would continue to tell Calgarians the rules are not the issue, it's our behavior that's the issue. And we just got to be disciplined for a little while longer. Mom gets her second dose of the vaccine next week, and the rest of us are starting to get our first doses. I did read the restrictions in phase 2B, the health restrictions, like a bingo card, but I did not get a bingo. So I'm likely in the final phase on this stuff, but it is moving quickly. And so we need to be able to just hold on to that discipline. Let's not backtrack now, and let's finish strong.
We'll have lots of time to talk about the guidebook later tonight.
The what?
The guidebook. I have one question for you, because it started on the weekend. We saw a bit of it this morning. Can you please provide clarification on the difference between a statutory document and a statutory plan?
Do you really want to know?
Well, I'll start by saying your tweet on the weekend saying it's not a statutory plan, and as Councillor Farkas pointed out, it says right in the bylaw, it is a statutory plan. So can you just...
No, it's an amendment to, it's so complicated. Here's the issue. What Councillor Farkas is implying is that this plan actually changes anything. It actually does not. It is a recipe book. The reason that it has to be statutory is when you look at the North Hill area, local area plan, which is before us today, there are big parts of it that says policies 2, 4, and 7 of the guidebook apply here. Because that is a statutory document, you don't have to repeat it, you don't have to cut and paste it, and the local area plans can be much shorter. That's it. It's just a document repository that sits in statute so that the LAPs can be shorter. I know that's a very boring answer to that question, but I will remind you that the guidebook, whether you like it or not, does not change the zoning on a single piece of land. It does not change the process by which you apply for a redesignation, because of course anyone could apply for a redesignation today to build an 8-story building next to a single family house. They probably wouldn't get it, but they can apply. So it doesn't change that process. And it doesn't change what's within each land use. I got a letter saying, well, RC1 now includes, 6-story townhouses, which is patently false. So it doesn't actually change any of those things. And if that's what your concern is, then this is the wrong thing to be concerned about.
Do you think there's any communication issues?
Oh, it's been terrible. No, the communication's been bad, it's been technocratic, and it's been very confusing.
So how do you rectify it?
Well, you just try to keep telling the truth in plain language, as I've been trying to do.
Do you know how the whole public hearing is going to proceed? I don't know
I actually don't know. I heard this morning 130. I don't know if the numbers have gone up. We normally can get through 10 to 15 an hour if we're really zipping. So there's going to be a long time. And we'll do them in panels of 5, stop after every 5 people to see if there's any questions and keep going.
Almost certainly into tomorrow.
No question.
Would you agree, sir, that a lack of trust in council is part of the issue surrounding this?
No. I would say that certain politicians are trying to foment that lack of trust, but really they're the ones bringing it on themselves by misleading others.
I just wondered because I know that that is something that has come up in the citizen satisfaction survey over recent years. That
Yeah,
trust
but
is
not
an
in
issue.
these kinds of numbers. And so that's the frustrating thing, which is politicians do this to themselves when they deliberately mislead.
I think Fergus is deliberately misleading.
Well, there's only 2 answers here because what he's saying isn't true. So either he doesn't understand what he's voting on, or he wants other people not to understand it. I don't see any other answer here. I don't know. You'll have to ask him.
Hate crimes that you heard about on the weekend, just your comment on that.
There's no place for that in this community, none whatsoever. Every single Calgarian deserves to feel safe and welcomed everywhere they go. And I really want the survivors of this stuff to know that although a tiny minority of people are out there doing this stuff, and let's be clear, it's a tiny minority. For the march this week, they advertised it widely all over the province. Convoys came. They got, 200 people from the whole province. This is a tiny minority. But I want folks to know that the vast majority of Calgarians are really happy you're here. And I want them to know that they are surrounded by love and by people who want them to have deliriously happy lives of dignity and prosperity right here. And that is what this place is about, and that is what we will always be about.
And with that comment, that quick one, if there was idea that people were leaving Calgary because of the racism, what would you say to those people?
You know, that's a very big problem that we should all be concerned about. Calgary only works because we welcome people from everywhere here. The Alberta government says that all of our growth will come from international immigration going forward, which fundamentally means that if we are scaring people off or people don't want to come here, we simply won't be able to grow, and that's a very serious concern.
And that, just where I think the glitch was one about, and the good news is because we need it, is that CP deal. You can just-
Right. You know, I'm really happy about this. This is the oldest company that's headquartered in Calgary. I had the chance to speak with Canadian Pacific Management this weekend, who affirmed no job losses for Calgary. This will become the global headquarters at Ogden Yards, and they anticipate growth going forward. So that's a good news story, and I can't wait until people can go to work at Ogden Yards on the Green Line.